Welcome back to Kaleidoscope with Daisy Cousens. I'm here with the incredible Dr. Joanna Howe. Now, Joanna, you do a huge amount of work to raise awareness about just how radical abortion laws are in Australia, especially with late-term abortion. Can you give us some examples?
Sure. So this is actually what crystallised for me the decision that I had to speak out. It was in South Australia in 2021 when my home state and the Parliament started debating a new bill that would have allowed abortion up to birth and for any reason. And it wasn't very much on my radar, but a friend told me about it and I absolutely realised, well, I had to do something more. So I wrote a briefing note for politicians explaining why this would be such a significant change. And that was the first time I really encountered firsthand how the other side sought to deny what was really going on. So they marketed and pitched this bill as being about decriminalisation. So, and this is what's actually happened everywhere. So this has mirrored the same story in every single state and territory. The pro-abortion playbook has been the same, even though women haven't been prosecuted or going to jail in anyone's memory. Like no one can remember a jail that's been a woman that's been prosecuted on abortion. Yet that was the narrative that sold abortion up to birth across our country in every state and territory, from Victoria in 2008 to South Australia in 2021 to WA, which was the last state to fall in 2023. So over that period from 2008 to 2023, every state and territory introduced abortion up to birth. They sold it as being about decriminalisation. They sold it as this is about healthcare and getting abortion out of the criminal code. They never said this would lead to abortion up to birth and on demand for any reason. In fact, they actively denied it. So the AMA, the Law Society of South Australia in 2021, I was coming up against big, powerful institutions like that, and then the media, the advertiser and the ABC reporting their version of events. So there was a really powerful campaign of lies and deceit to sell abortion up to birth in South Australia. And in the end, it passed. And for me, I was absolutely devastated because, you know, I had had a child born early at 37 weeks. And I knew that in Victoria, under their abortion up to birth laws, a child had been killed at 37 weeks who was perfectly healthy for a psychosocial reason. So that's a full-term child where the abortionist has gone in with a needle filled with either digoxin or potassium chloride, so essentially poison, injected it into the baby's heart, no pain relief provided. Baby then dies in utero and is delivered stillborn. And having had a child delivered at the same gestation alive, and to hold him in my arms and to know the reality of that child's humanity, it was just gut-wrenching and heartbreaking to me. And I knew that I had to speak up because now my own home state had introduced the same laws. And I'd watched in the Parliament, our Attorney General, Vicky Chapman, she had been asked by David Spears, could your laws kill a healthy baby at 35 weeks? And if it was for a mental health reason. And she stood up and said, no, it couldn't, because that child wouldn't be able to be killed. We would prioritise the life of that child. And he stood up again and asked the question a second time. And again, she denied that it would be possible because of the advanced gestational age. I was in the parliamentary gallery. I knew the data from the states that introduced abortion up to birth. In Victoria and Queensland, in both those states, between 2010 and 2020, close to 5,000 babies had been killed through a late-term abortion. So it was 5,929, if viewers want to know the exact number. It's a huge amount of babies.
Yeah.
And then Queensland doesn't actually keep the data on the reasons, but Victoria does. And what we can see there is 44%, so close to 1 in 2 of those babies killed through a late-term abortion were for a psychosocial reason. So what that means, if I can break it down for viewers, is it's a non-emergency situation. The mum's physical life is not in danger at all. It's not a medical emergency. The baby is perfectly healthy, no disability. You know, in your opening, you talked about a catastrophic abnormality. Not the case with these babies. Nearly 1 in 2 are perfectly healthy. Their mum is perfectly physically healthy. And they're being killed in utero for another reason, when in reality, they're gestationally viable. They can feel pain. They respond to their mother's voice. And they're in the place where they're safest, and they are suddenly and shockingly killed and then delivered stillborn. The mother actually has to go through labour. in order to deliver her child. The other side talks about forced birth. Well, in late-term abortion, the mother actually has to go through the process of giving birth, but she's just giving birth to a dead baby, which is incredibly traumatic. And here's the Attorney General standing up and saying, under our laws, we won't be able to do this. These babies will be protected. It was just absolute BS. I don't know if I'm allowed to say that on your show, Daisy, but I just wanted to jump up and down and scream from the parliamentary gallery to say that's not true. I know the data and she is lying. And now the data is actually in. So on my Instagram, I broke this story last year, and viewers can go there for more information if they want, at Dr. Joanna Howe. I broke the story to show that in the first 6 months of the Attorney General's new laws, 10 babies were killed that were gestationally viable in South Australia. 8 of them were perfectly healthy. So these are perfectly healthy babies killed in a non-emergency situation for a mental health reason. Why are we not inducing these children alive and placing them for adoption, and then medical care can be given to the mother and can be given to the child? Late-term abortion should be a no-brainer for people, but the reason the pro-abortion activists and the abortion industry want abortion up to birth is because it's more money. These abortions are more expensive, so they get way more money for it. But also, I don't think they want any idea, any kind of inkling to be there that some parts of abortion are unsavory or distasteful. Because, you know, if they concede that abortion of a viable healthy baby is wrong, then it becomes harder to argue, doesn't it? That killing a baby at 20 weeks or 19 weeks is not wrong.
Yeah.
You know, because we're not dumb. You know, there's a continuum here in human development. And in fact, you know, pro-abortion ethicists like Peter Singer, who has done work in this area, and we don't love Peter Singer, but one thing I will say is he's honest. He says there's no consistency with the abortion argument. If we say that abortion should be legal up till birth, we should actually say it should be legal up till 1 year after birth. And that's because the arguments for why we should be able to kill a child in utero are exactly the same as to why we should be able to kill a child up until 1 year old. So he says up until 1 year old, a child is completely dependent. He said they're completely dependent. They have no aspirations for their lives. They're not really an independent human being.
Yeah.
And so he and other pro-abortion activists actually argue for that ability to kill a child up until 1 year. And I do feel like that is where we will go. Like, it would have been unthinkable in 1969 in South Australia, when abortion became legal for the first time, to think that the law would allow killing babies right up until birth.
Oh, of course.
The law at that stage protected a baby after viability so that you couldn't kill them. And right now in 2024, we say it's unthinkable that a mother would have the right to kill a child up until 1 year old. But there are people that are arguing for this, who have been arguing for it, and it's actually logically consistent with the pro-abortion position. It's disgusting, absolutely disgusting, but it is consistent. And that is the brutal reality of abortion up to birth in Australia. It's why we have the most extreme laws in the world. Only 8 out of 50 American states allow abortion up to birth and on demand. So we're up there with China, North Korea. It's really disgusting.
Oh, it is completely disgusting. And yeah, that's the horrifying thing about the abortion argument, is that Peter Singer's right. If you're going to be consistent about it, you would advocate for a child to be aborted up to 1 year old. And like, it's appalling. And just before we go to a break, I'll get a quick comment for you on this. There's a doctor I'm sure you've come across from America called Dr. Anthony Levatino, who was a former abortionist, and he talks about the sort of myth of in late-term abortion of, oh, well, it happens to protect the life of the mother. And he has worked on a lot of very dangerous pregnancies, you know, diabetes, all that, and he says that the solution almost always isn't to kill the baby, just deliver the baby prematurely and put it in an incubator, and that will protect the life of the mother. So that's also a myth, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. So there is no medically necessary reason to kill a baby in late-term abortion. It actually takes longer. So you're putting the life of the mother at risk in a truly emergency situation. So let's imagine mum's got a life-threatening condition and she cannot be pregnant anymore, but the baby is viable. So we're talking after 22, 23 weeks. What a doctor does in that situation is they give the mum an emergency C-section. It's the quickest way to get the baby out. You can get the baby out in a matter of hours. But if you are going through a late-term abortion procedure, you're actually giving the mum an abortion drug to induce labour, which can take 12 to 24 hours. And prior to inducing labour, you actually have to go in and kill the baby first to do feticide, the injection that I talked about earlier in the interview. So this is a process that takes 24 to 48 hours as opposed to an emergency C-section, which takes a couple of hours.
Yeah.
So it's an absolute fallacy that we need abortion up to birth to save mothers' lives. There is never a medically necessary reason to save a mother's life. And I love that the Dr. Anthony has come out to say that, but also the American Association of Pro-Life OBGYNs. They've got over 7,000 members, and they've released very clear information that shows you don't need abortion up to birth to save mums.
Yep.
And it's a primary example of the other side really obscuring the facts to try and make women afraid to think, well, I need this because I might get into a life-threatening situation.
Oh, absolutely. It is the ultimate false flag. And it is completely appalling. With Dr. Joanna Howe, this is a fabulous conversation.